interesting things happen after you're in 20 years.
James, sooner or later, you're going to be faced with an unexpected test of your integrity.
It comes down to doing the right thing at times. And
love your soldiers.
Watch out who you're with.
I guess I'm talking to young Jim right now because, Jim, these times will face you, whether it's combat or peacetime.
It's all a good experience. Enjoy it.
Yes, you'll encounter lots of leaders along your path.
The other thing I'd like to say for you is have fun.
Welcome to the West Point Society of Northern Nevada's 2021 Founders Night. Coming to you from Reno, Nevada. Hi, this is Bill Conrad from the class of 1980, and I will be your host tonight for this virtual Founders Night for the West Point Society of Northern Nevada. Well, it's been a long year and a half, and this should be the last virtual event for our society. Thank goodness. But for now, let me step back and let's go over the itinerary and check out who our speakers are. Our first speaker tonight, an old grad, is Colonel retired Jerry Gibbs, class of 1952, and son of Colonel Gerald Gibbs, class of 1924. So Jerry, with his 30 years of service, served in 2 wars to include the Korean War and Vietnam. Jerry had a successful career serving both at West Point and numerous assignments around the world. Youngest grad tonight is Second Lieutenant James Hunter from the class of 2021, brand new Second Lieutenant. He is Medical Services Corps, will be heading off to Fort Sam for his basic officer's course, and then it's off to flight school for 10.5 months to become a medevac pilot. And finally, our keynote speaker tonight from the West Point Association of Graduates is Miguel Gutierrez. He is a class of 1980. That's my class. We're classmates. And he was commissioned in field artillery, went over to Europe, then to the National Training Center, out at Fort Irwin, the desert. And after that, he decided to go to the private sector where he worked in career counseling and military transition. And today at the AOG, Miguel helps grads navigate each phase of their post-military career transition. So for our itinerary, after the speakers finish up, we'll sing the alma mater, then we'll have an open forum. Now, without further ado, here's our old grad, Colonel Jerry Gibbs, United States Army, retired. Go ahead, Colonel.
Okay. In 1932, I was 1 year old. And even though my dad, who was in the class of 24, made less than $100 a month, we lived in relative luxury. We lived in big quarters on Corregidor, which was a coast artillery post. And since they were authorized to fire only 1 round per gun per year to remain current, there wasn't much to do. So my dad played polo, tennis, or golf every afternoon. We had an enlisted striker who did the yard work and cleaned our quarters, and a Filipino ama who took me and did the housekeeping and cooking.
That's it.
At that time, the Army was looked upon by the country as an unnecessary, wasteful expenditure, since we had recently won the war to end all wars. During 1933, my dad's year group was placed on 6 months unpaid leave. The Army had run out of money and nobody cared. My dad sold shoes. I guess it's okay to mention that during this time, Prohibition was in force, and my mother made a little extra money making the best bathtub gin in the islands. Then along came World War II, and we were totally unprepared. Suddenly, my dad became part of the greatest generation. As soon as the war was won, we demobilized as fast as possible and immediately forgot everything that had happened. It was at this time we were being told that the Army was not needed anymore and that future wars, if any, could be won by the Navy or the Strategic Air Command. And yet, 730 of us for the class of 52 took the oath on the plane in June 48. Some 65 years later, Thomas Fleming, noted author and writer of several books on West Point, chose the class of 52 as one of West Point's 5 most notable. He did this on the basis of the large number who achieved general officer status and mentioned our astronauts Ed White and Mike Collins, and also Dick Shea, our Medal of Honor recipient. I agree with that, but there's more to it. 52 had more full colonels than any other class, and that was because most of us stayed until full retirement. The reason the class did not cut and run after two unpopular wars, Korea and Vietnam, was that we understood the necessity of rebuilding the Army after the Vietnam disaster. The essential element of the rebuilding was reversing the total loss of integrity that had resulted from the many lies and deceits of Vietnam. One prime example, members of my class, 52, myself included, were part of an Army War College study and paper sent to the Secretary of the Army that many of his senior commanders were corrupt. We stated specifics such as ordering false readiness reports and ordering false body counts, and we named names. Many retirements took place very soon thereafter, and the culture changed. There were many other significant actions that we took, but that's really another old grad presentation. I would like to think that our legacy is the earned regard that the people of the United States have for our Army today. Thank you for listening to the ramblings of an old soldier. My biggest regret is that I can't do it all over again. Thank you, Bill.
Jerry, thank you for coming on, being the old grad. Now we'll take you to our youngest grad, and that's James Hunter. So James, I'm going to pin you on here. So James is a brand new second lieutenant, class of 2021, and you're coming from New York tonight, right?
Yes, sir, I am. Thanks, Mr. Conrad, for having me on. I'm honored to be here talking to you as your youngest graduate from the United States Military Academy. So this past Saturday, I graduated with 995 of my classmates in the class of 21. While I was at West Point, I studied international history and Arabic. I commissioned to the Medical Service Corps to go off and a medevac pilot. But before I even get to that and got to West Point, I have to talk a little bit about my home life. I grew up in a family that really didn't know military service. My grandfather served briefly in the Navy. My great-grandfather was one that served in World War II. But outside of that, on my father's side especially, no one really served. So this was kind of a new step for my family moving forward when I came to West Point. But I think, like many of you in this chat tonight, I was brought to West Point by things like a desire to serve my country, a desire to be a part of something that was bigger than myself, and to contribute to my country, to give back. And I think that's something that's across the board here. So with all that in mind, I showed up on our day on July 3rd, 2017 to begin my 47-month experience at West Point. Now, as a recent graduate, about 5 days removed from that 47-month experience, I've had time to do some reflecting on what it all meant and what it all is going to mean in the future. And as I look back, West Point is simultaneously like the blink of an eye, and it's also a very long 47 months. But it's not the running between classes and the occasional chewing out you get on the plane that's going to stick in my mind. It's going to be the funny moments and the serious moments. So I thought I'd recount a few of those. I remember things like my plebe year when, before we all left for Christmas leave, folks threw printers set on fire out their windows onto the apron. I remember when plebes went into Central area and threw milk cartons and sang cadence. I remember when there was a food fight in the mess hall, and I remember when my class almost broke the floor of Cullum Hall. And I think most importantly, I remember all of the lasting friendships that I've made along the way. But I also remember the serious moments. I remember the moments when we were out at Camp Buckner in the middle of the night. It was downpouring, it was cold, and we were out there doing tough, realistic training. I remember, unfortunately, the loss of several classmates. We had a couple of those happen during my 47th month experience. And it was tough and it was real, and we had to be there for each other. I remember when several of my classmates and officer mentors went to northern France and Belgium, and we toured the fields of World War I, and we tried to think about what it would mean to be a combat leader. And I remember how my class, the class of 21, led West Point through the COVID-19 pandemic. We weren't allowed to leave. There's a lot of restrictions in place, and we had to be there for each other. Many of my classmates and their families were going through tough times. So it was a very real, very serious, but a humbling experience. Through it all, as I look back on this, West Point not only gave me a set of friendships that I'm confident will last a lifetime, but it gave me a set of skills, and my classmates a set of skills that has prepared us for whatever the future holds. So on that note, I thought I'd take just a moment to talk about what I and my classmates think that the future has in store. I'd be at a loss if I didn't at least acknowledge the fact that I have grown up knowing nothing but a nation at war. 9/11 happened when I was about 2 years old, and I remember seeing the nightly news of soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's all I've known. And when I joined West Point, when I came to West Point, that is all I knew. That's what I thought I would be doing. But now in 2021, as both of those wars come to a close, it's very clear that we're at a transition point. We're leaving behind the wars of the past 2 generations and we're moving into the future. And with that comes a degree of closure, I hope, for those soldiers that fought in both of those wars and their families, but also a degree of uncertainty. We don't know what's coming next. With great power competition on the rise and emerging threats, we simply don't know what's next for our great nation. But the one thing that does remain constant is West Point and the lessons that it teaches its cadets and now second lieutenants. We, the class of 2021, are certainly young, and we certainly have a lot to learn. I know that. But I do also know that the friendships we've made, the lessons we've learned, and the education we've received, with all of those things, I know that our country is in good hands for the future. So thanks for having me tonight. I'm honored to be here as your youngest graduate, and I'm looking forward to being a member of the Long Gray Line. Thanks, folks.
Oh, very good, James. Very, very good. Everyone's clapping, but I muted everybody. So let me go back to gallery. And for our keynote speaker from the AOG, Miguel, I got to find, there he is right in the middle. Got to pin you. My transitions need some work. So, hey, classmate.
Hey, Bill.
Take it away.
Right. So first, I want to thank Bill, obviously my classmate, for roping me into this. No, I'm humbled and honored to be the speaker tonight. I hope that someday in the future, when the things get back to normal, I can actually come out to one of your events and meet everybody, because one of the things I'd like to do in the AOG is actually travel to the societies and talk to you and meet with you in person. So a little background. I came onto the AOG in August of 2018 to become the first director of the newly formed Career Services Organization. So over many surveys with the alumni for the past couple of years, asking what is the greatest need that's lacking among the services that are offered by the Association of Graduates, the number one topic that always hit the top of the survey list was that we did not have any type of formal career services organization to help our graduates as they're transitioning from the military or at any point in their careers, be it already in civilian life. So with that in mind, 5 graduates got together and said, we need to do something about this. And so they put together some funding and got together with the CEO and the board and said, we want this to happen. Here's some money, make it happen. And so I was brought on as that director. It was just me, and I was given a clean slate and said, build it. And that's what I set out to do. And we set up from a blank sheet from August, had until April, and on April 17th of 2019, went live. That was with a brand new website, functionality, a whole brand new team. I have 2 team members, Julia Ruddock, class of 07, and Scott Leishman, who is class of 77. So this is 3 of us that make up the entire organization. So what does the Career Services Organization do? I know for many of you, this is long past, you're retired and everything, but it's good to know what the AOG is doing. And I know, James, you're going to be coming to us eventually. So it's just a matter of time. But again, all of you know other grads. And again, we're working with people who've just got out of 35 years in the military. So we work with everybody. So the primary function of the association, our mission is like I stated earlier, to work with every graduate, regardless of their career stage, be it that cadet who's going to graduate but not be commissioned due to medical. So we had a few of those this year, all the way up to that lieutenant general that's retiring, or that CEO that's looking for a new company, and everything in between. So The service is free, and it's available to you anytime you want, to the extent that you want. We can be a coach for you over an entire period, starting with a blank sheet of paper and helping you create your first resume, to if you just need us to help you with an evaluation of an offer letter or how to set up your social media, anything like that. So that's what we're there for. And the way we do that is through a series of tools that we have. First off is our website, which is at wpaogcareers.org. It's a standalone site separate from the AOG's website, but you can access it through the AOG's website if need be. It's under services. So anybody can go there, click on get started, and it'll start the whole process on getting enrolled into our program. So once you come into our program, we have tools and resources that can be made available to you, because our function is not to necessarily find you a job, where you sit home and wait for the phone to ring from one of us and saying, we've got a job for you. We're not a placement agency per se. Our job, as we like to say, is to teach you how to fish as opposed to giving you the fish. So we give you the tools, the resources, the training, the mentorship, the counseling to make you successful not only now, but in the future. Because on average, our graduates will change jobs a minimum of 5 times in their career, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, right? So with that, the tools that we provide to them, there are 3 major tools. One is a platform we call Handshake. And Handshake is the hub, if you can say, of a wheel of resources. And within Handshake, there are 3 major elements that our grads utilize the most. One is the job board. The job board is unique in that it is restricted to only graduates. The jobs that are posted on there are individually vetted and approved by me and my team. Companies cannot unilaterally post jobs on that job board. We make sure there are jobs that are what our graduates are looking for. So you're not going to see a $10 an hour part-time 7-Eleven midnight to 6 shift posted on there. You're going to see professional level positions. We also keep positions on there for individuals who are going to graduate school. We have internships and co-op programs listed on there also. So there's the uniqueness about that job board. The second element is our event section. That is where we communicate to our graduates and tell them about training sessions, virtual job fairs, or in the future, physical job fairs, training classes, and employer webinar sessions, where graduates can learn about different companies and what they offer and so forth like that. So there's a lot of good information, and every single one of those sessions is recorded, so it goes into our resource library. And that's the other element. We have the resource library where we keep there all our training videos, all our videos from our guest speakers, from different series that we do. For instance, we do a masterclass session where we bring in a noted expert in a particular topic, and they give a talk, and we record it, and it's in that library. So grads can access all these videos at any time, and that's with Handshake. So beyond Handshake, obviously social media is very important nowadays. So we created our own dedicated career services LinkedIn group, which has been very popular. We just set that up about in March of this year. And already within that group, we've got almost 1,400 graduates who have joined that group. So it's restricted to only graduates of the academy. And what's great about it is that we post on there, lots of grads go on there and post openings that they're looking to fill with other graduates. So it's a networking thing utilizing the long gray line so that grads can hire grads. And then it's also a forum where grads who are transitioning saying, I'm looking to network, looking for opportunities, they can make that known to grads who are in those hiring positions, who have that ability to be a decision maker. So it's a great interactive forum for our graduates. So what kind of results has this resulted in since we got formed? I'm happy to say that in terms of the number of graduates that we've worked with, at this point, 914 graduates we have worked with. Out of those 914, they range everything from, like I said, that cadet who is not going to get commission, but will graduate, all the way up to, like I said, those lieutenant generals. I helped one of my classmates when he retired as a lieutenant general, Lieutenant General Gary Cheek. I got him his first job once he left the military. on there. So he came to us and said, help. So out of those 914, how many of them have found success in finding a new position? Out of that number, we've had 475 hires in that time period. In 2019, we had 165, and that was basically only for 3/4 of the year, 165. In 2020, we increased that our first full year to 201 graduates. Now in 2021, we're already at 109, which last year at the same time in 2020, we were only at 68. So we're way ahead of our pace for this year. And again, out of that 914, not necessarily individuals who are leaving in the next 3 months from the military. I'm working right now with individuals that are on staff at the academy that aren't getting out until 2023. They're starting that far out. So we have individuals way out, as part of that group, but they realize the value of getting started early and have started working with us. So who's like the biggest employer? Who hires the most of our graduates? Surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, it's Amazon. Amazon is our biggest employer. We like to say you can't throw a rock at Amazon without hitting a graduate nowadays. And we had them across all levels within the organization. So they really have grabbed on to our graduates and have actually set up certain programs that if you're a JMO, you go directly into this type of slot. If you're a senior officer, because they got a program like for lieutenant colonels above, they've got a slot you go straight into already. No questions asked. So it's a great program they have. Some of the key things that we have coming up, for instance, this coming June 25th to be exact, we're going to host our first very own use-made only job fair. It's a tech job fair. And we wanted to do that because we get a lot of interest from companies who want our graduates. Our graduates are very much in demand. And so we're going to be hosting that event in June. And we're hoping that we'll be looking forward to that being very successful. And one of the key things that we do is we establish partnerships with companies, both formal and informal, because we get unsolicited inquiries from many, many companies that say, how do we get your grads into our company? Let's set up a pipeline. And we do that. And we do it so that when we have a grad who's interested in an organization and we have a PLC within that company, we bypass HR and we go straight to a hiring manager. We go straight to a decision maker, somebody that can get them around HR and get them to the top of the pile and get them into positions that may not even exist because they want a grad to just come into that organization because they know what they bring to the table in terms of character, leadership, initiative, everything that, West Point emphasizes on our graduates, as cadets. So we have those partnerships. They've proven very, very valuable. And now we're at the point now where even certain executive search firms have asked to try and connect with us. And we've got some relationships with some boutique search firms. We do a fee split with them because we know how valuable our graduates are. And we work at the levels where it's like the C level. So there's a search firm who might be looking for somebody at a C level or senior VP type of role. So we work with organizations like that, and it really is valuable for those senior officers, those general officers, or somebody who's already been in the civilian world for a long time on there. So that kind of gives us a synopsis of what we do in career services. Our phones are always ringing. We're always getting new grads asking to work with us. And again, this is all free, and it is for the life. And Air Force Academy, Naval Academy, Coast Guard, Merchant Marine have nothing like this. We get phone calls from graduates from those academies asking if we can help them because they have heard about our program and how outstanding it is. And one of the key things that shows how we're seen within the general public is that we picked up 2 major awards last year for outstanding HR career services team in the entire country. We took a silver and a gold medal in that. for those categories. So that was a first for West Point to get that kind of award within any type of career services. So somebody says, we don't believe we're hearing this, from Steve Metcalf. Well, it's being recorded, so it'll be available there on there. So I apologize if you're not hearing that. What's life going on right now? West Point, I know James could give probably a little bit more up to date, but within the AOG, we're looking at transitioning into coming back into the office. Right now, we don't have to wear a mask if you go into the office. But in terms of reunions for this coming fall, that decision has not been made by the superintendent yet. So we're still up in the air waiting for the suit to make some decisions as to the fall reunions and any other fall events. Although we are planning on supporting and coming out to the Air Force Army game in Dallas, Texas in November. So that will be a physical event that we'll be going out to and supporting. And hopefully the reunions themselves this fall will occur. Unfortunately, last year they didn't. So Bill and myself, we missed out on our 40th reunion, and we now have to wait till our 45th reunion to get back together again. That pretty much, sums up in terms of what's going on there at the AOG with respect to COVID. The majority of the people are still working remotely. I'm in San Antonio, Texas. So James, when you get to Texas and you want to know where to eat or what to do in San Antonio, yeah, right. Give me a call. Bring your golf clubs. Right? But first, overall, I just want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. If you got any questions, or you got a grad or young grad that want some advice or anything like that with respect to careers, please have them reach out to me, and we'll be glad to work with them. And any other questions anybody might have, feel free to ask me when we get to the open section. So
open section will do questions. That's really good. And so anyway, let me get this back into gallery. So we're doing good. Right now, we're going to go to the alma mater. Well, congratulations. They could bring unmute. Where's James?
Be Navy.
I got to find it. Oh, there's James. Oh, go Army, beat Navy. So
That's right. Army v. Navy.
So I've got one question for James. Was it Mahan Hall you guys broke?
It was Cullum Hall.
Oh, Cullum. It's Cullum Hall.
Cullum Hall.
What'd you guys do?
Yeah, it was the plebe Halloween dance. I don't know if that was back in most of your times, but basically they had a dance when we were all plebes. And at one point, the man doing the music kind of grabbed a microphone and he shouted to all of us. He said, "Hey, go to the sides of the room. The floor's caving in." And we all ran to the sides of Cullum Hall, and sure enough, there were cracks in the floor. So they evacuated us out to central area. And then I don't really know what happened, but all of a sudden there was a green smoke grenade out there, and I said, "I gotta go before we get here." So,
wow. So anyway, Cullum Hall is the one you guys busted.
Yep.
How dare you busted that, Lieutenant? I got laid on that floor one night.
Had my wedding reception there.
Oh my gosh.
Was it yours? I can't remember.
Neither can I.
All I know is I used to sleep there between classes in the chair. I go sleep. It was a great place to sleep.
I got a question for Miguel.
Yes, sir.
A question and a comment. One, I still have sort of a negative view to anything that might induce, you've heard this before, of course, induce graduates to leave the service, which I think your organization does a splendid job of doing. And it just seems wrong to me.
Well, actually, 2/3 of the living graduates are out of the military before we even came into existence. So the number of graduates that are in civilian life already greatly exceeds those who are in the military. So there's a huge demographic pool that we support, that are already in civilian life itself. We don't solicit anybody while they're on active duty or anything like that. So, we're not out there trying to encourage anybody to leave. And in fact, sometimes we've actually told some individuals it really would be better if they actually stayed in active duty service. So they come to us and sometimes they ask, should I get out? This is what I want to do. Maybe I should stay in. And, sometimes we say, you know what, in your case, you'd be better off staying in.
I made my point. I do have a question. I found the hardest part about trying to get into the civilian job market, figuring out a compensation. How much I should ask for, how much is set. You never mentioned that in your presentation.
Yeah, well, actually, we keep pretty detailed metrics on everything. And one of those is every time we help somebody, find a position, we send them a survey and we get what their comps are, both bonuses, equity, whatever it might be. And we keep all those records so that when somebody says, "Hey, I'm getting out, what kind of compensation can I expect if I go into this kind of field in this part of the country?" We have the data there to tell them, this is what you can expect. Sometimes we have to bring some people back into reality that what they want to go into, you're not going to make $200,000 to start. You're going to be maybe $85,000 to start. By having the actual data, it lends credence to the advice we're giving to people. And every time we help somebody get in, that's another data point that goes into our metrics. So we have also about 500 graduates who have volunteered to be what we call industry mentors. So we can connect you with somebody within the industry, and they'll give you the straight poop too about what your expectations can be with respect to compensation. And again, that could be for that JMO just getting out, or that lieutenant colonel or colonel that's getting out, and they have no idea, what their value is. And we can give them a pretty good estimate of what their value is based on all the data points that we have already. So that's the biggest question, that they always ask us: how much am I worth? And fortunately, we have that data.
Okay, thank you.
So you have to unmute. Most everyone's muted. I muted them during the presentation. So if you have any questions you want to mute, just hit the bottom down below.
Bill, yeah.
Hey,
Jack,
Bill, Jack Logan here. I'd like
Go ahead,
to-
Jack.
Okay.
Bill.
Go ahead,
Hello?
Jack.
Okay. The Long Gray Line lost a real soldier in May of 20 this year when Major General retired John Hemphill passed away. John was my brigade commander in Vietnam when they had a infantry battalion, and he was a great soldier. He had earned the Distinguished Service Cross in Korea as a young lieutenant, the class of 1951. He had 2 Silver Stars, 3 Bronze Stars, and 3 Purple Hearts. But more importantly, I think, was his contribution to the community of Steilacoom, Washington, Indian name, obviously, in which he was Citizen of the Year in, I think, 1998, somewhere around there. But the tribute that he left in place is just outside the main entrance of Joint Base Lewis McChord. And if you are fortunate enough to be in that area and go through that gate, you will, before you do, you will see a small memorial park, which honors the Lewis and Clark expedition, but more importantly, honors Sergeant Ordway and his dog. It's probably the only monument in the United States in which an enlisted soldier is featured. And John collected, by hard work and a lot of effort in publicity, more than $3 million to construct those statues, those monuments to Lewis and Clark and Sergeant Ordway and their dog. So I would like us all to remember not only all these wonderful young men who graduate from our alma mater and go on to great and joyous things, but also people like John Hemphill, class of 1951, who has passed away but left his presence and his fondness for soldiers in a very remarkable way. So thanks for listening. I love John as a soldier, as a man, and we're still in touch with his widow, Peggy, and their 5 daughters. So thanks for listening.
Very good. I'll be at Lewis McChord this summer. My daughter's got CTLT up there, so we're going to try to go up and visit and do a little trip.
He's going to Joint Base Lewis.
You know, Jack, it's interesting that you brought this, Steve. It's interesting you brought that up because a classmate of mine from high school, a fellow named Tony Forsythe, who went to Whitman College for 2 years and then went on to West Point. So he's 2 years behind me, graduated in 71. But he lived right there in a condo complex in Steilacoom and knew John. The whole community admired him, and he mentioned that to me last week. What a remarkable guy he was, and he wished he had known him better, and this and that and the other. But the man had quite a reputation in the whole Seattle Tacoma region, very deservedly so.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, he got Distinguished Service Cross in Korea. First Correct. Major medal. He was wounded in both legs as leading a charge to retake a hill.
Yep. Right on.
Wow. Heck of a citation.
I lost him as a brigade commander when he was wounded again in the right thigh by an AK-47, which made a lucky hit on John's helicopter.
Yep. Pretty amazing. Well, anyway, so do we have any other questions of anybody? We'll record this and edit it a bit.
I have a comment. I have a Steve again, and I know I talk too much. Anybody else can shut me down. I'll take it well. But to the younger graduate, you guys come out of there and you're full of piss and vinegar. And yeah, you've had your experiences, and you'll hear about them at reunions for years to come. They're cherished. You don't know what the nation will bring for you. But whatever you perceive right now about your future, believe me, it will be different. Mm-hmm. I'm very unhappy, and I'm preaching now, but I'm very unhappy that we're in an era when we accept a general officer getting up on Hillary Clinton's campaign or Donald Trump's campaign and aligning with parties and speaking publicly about it. That's a court-martial offense if they were to face it. Our job, no matter how we feel personally, is to be absolutely apolitical and serve the nation. You're at the beginning of your little odyssey, and I regret to say it's going to be a very rugged next 15 years. So keep your powder dry, and remember, your job is to command soldiers who might be left, might be right, might be of any race, any color, and command them well. I resign.
Yes, sir. Couldn't agree more.
Bill, I got a comment about Founders Day in general. Can you hear me?
You're loud and clear.
Everybody knows that we've been having trouble the last few years getting people coming to Founders Day, and especially with the younger classes. And for a while now, we said, what's wrong with the younger classes? But I noticed a statistic that you actually, Bill Conrad, furnished us not recently about contributions to the All-American Challenge. And the younger classes were doing far, far better than the older classes. So using the measure of loyalty to duty on your country and going to Founders Day is specious. So, which takes me right back. I still don't know what to do about Founders Day.
Well, any comments out there? How would you improve Founders Day?
Yes.
Anybody out there? I know I didn't get to go to a Founders Day for a long time while I was on active duty. In fact, when I was in Bagram, they had a Founders Day and I couldn't find the darn thing when I was in Afghanistan.
And, Jack has something to say about Founders Day.
Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, not exactly about Founders Day. I would just like to say I think Ann Davis is doing a great job of collecting West Point candidates, as well as I'm sure she helps other service academy people. But it seems like she's very responsive, URN, and very helpful when we have someone we think should go to West Point and will do well there. So thank you, Ann, for all your hard work, your good work.
Thanks so much, Jack. And I really do enjoy when I get those referrals from all of you out there. When you come across those young candidates that you think are good ones to push forward. And so keep on doing that. I'm always happy to help.
Jack, you're muted. Yeah, I think you muted it.
We have a lady who was the student body president at Damani Ranch High School. And last year she went to the prep school. She's a Black female.
Yeah. Brianna Bolton.
Brianna Bolton. Her dad's retired colonel in the Army National Guard of Nevada. And we stay in touch with Brianna. And I have a feeling that at the least she'll be a battalion commander, if not the first captain in
2025. Yeah.
Great lady. And,
she is. She did get her offer and she has accepted it. So she'll be starting our day in June, and so that's all good news for her.
Yeah.
Yes.
When is our day?
I believe it's somewhere around 24, 25, 26 June. No, yes.
It is
3 days.
It is. They're
It's
coming
about
in over
half
3 days because of the whole pandemic thing. So
Now,
Yeah.
we will see her this summer when she's home, and people like Brianna, I think, keep my faith in the quality of the Corps Cadets. She's a great
Yeah.
lady, and I know that she is just one of very many that are going to our alma mater. Thank you.
Yeah. And she also told me she wants to be on the boxing team.
Oh, Jesus.
Some about
That
here.
was fun. I
That
remember
doesn't
boxing.
surprise us.
Yeah.
I think our job is
Man.
I think our job is to facilitate and encourage outstanding young men and women in the greater Reno area. And whenever we find one that we think can qualify and go on and serve our country as we have done, we are obliged to help them every way we can. And Brianna is such a fine lady that we are happy to have helped her. Her dad says, you know, you guys are great mentors. That's high praise. Thank you.
You know,
So- Go ahead.
at the risk again of speaking too much, Bill,
Go ahead.
I wonder if any of our fellow graduates have any kind of considerations about the remarkable paradigm we're going through right now. COVID slowed us down and put a cork in things for a while. While we looked at where we are, what our challenges are, what we're facing with the Chinese threat, with the Russian threat, the nuclear threat. Does anybody want to have a general BS session to just share their thoughts about that? And I'm throwing it out to the group.
It's scary. I'd say it's really scary. It's always scary. I don't think when you're young second lieutenant, I don't think you realize how scary it really is. I know in 2009, I was trail in Afghanistan. We lost 9 guys 2 days before we left. And when I got back on the plane 3 days later at Bagram, coming in from the field, I saw 3 second lieutenants in November, 4 second lieutenants. 3 of them were West Point Grad's class of 09, I think it's 09. They had finished their OCS, their infantry basic and ranger school, and they're already over there before Christmas. So the second lieutenants took a beating up in the Korengal, and it's a tough world. But now with the Chinese, it's scary. It's scary. So James, you'll earn your money as a medevac pilot. I've seen those guys go in Afghanistan. So anyway, it's scary.
Others of a more strategic concept, thoughts? Well, I guess not.
Well, I don't know. It's a scary. The world is. I think the older you get, you realize. When you're young, I think when you're deployed, you don't realize how dangerous it really is. Now, Jerry, you were in Vietnam and Korea, and when you were there, did you realize how dangerous it was?
Yeah, I've been mulling over Steve's point, and if you'll allow me to go back there, I was still thinking when he looked for an answer. You know, I'm not nearly so worried about the external threat as I am the internal threat. I think we're starting to lose our way in national purpose. And once we lose that, we're finished.
Question is, what is that national purpose? Do you want to try to articulate it?
Well, you see, if I did that, the national purpose that is being perceived right now or presented right now to me is phony. It has to do with woke. It has to do with rights. And I'm trying to choose my words carefully, but it has nothing to do with personal or group responsibility.
Good point. You know something though, all of us have had diverse careers. I think I heard another peep. I'd rather let someone else speak. Go ahead.
James, what's your class think? What do you think coming up? I mean, brand new second lieutenant. What's your feelings?
Yeah, I think I'll tell you, my class is certainly aware of the challenges that I think Mr. Metcalf that you brought off. There's a class that we have now called MX 400 officership. And I was fortunate enough to be in a class with Lieutenant Colonel and actually the Commandant. He sat into my class. And he certainly, as a general officer, shared his opinions on that. And I think we always emphasize that, our loyalties to the Constitution, that we are politically aware but not politically involved. And so I think with that in mind, having that class right before graduation, we certainly have the mindset going into our starting our careers as second lieutenants. It's just a matter of keeping those ideas at the heart of what we do in the heart of our service, not letting other opinions kind of sway us towards being otherwise.
That leads me in. If everyone go around, I think it'd be an interesting thing. Looking back, what would your advice be to the class of 2021? If you give one piece of advice, and there's a lot of advice you could give, there's a lot of good things you could do. I think, Steve, your advice of being neutral, and that's your obligation, of being neutral politically, not being a Republican or a Democrat. Some great leaders that came out, like Eisenhower, never declared what he was. You serve the nation, you serve the Constitution. So I think it was really good advice for a basic foundation. That's my advice. Just serve your country, your duty. One thing I would say, if you stay in and you stay into 20, stay in 22 years. Interesting things happen after you're in 20 years. At least 22 years. Because opportunities open up.
Well, my thought, based on what happened in my years, is, James, sooner or later, you're going to be faced with an unexpected test of your integrity. Choose wisely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would agree with that. I mean, Bill, when we were in, it wasn't too long after Vietnam and everything, the Army was in transition. And I went to Germany, and drugs and alcohol were the biggest issues in Germany at the time. And, coming across troops that were smoking pot, had pot in their rooms, but they were smart on knowing how to put it in common areas so you couldn't charge anybody. And just, you're eventually going to face a situation, James, where it's like, they just said that it's going to be a moral dilemma that you're going to be faced. I ended up having to get my platoon sergeant fired and reduced in rank because of some issues. And here I am as a lieutenant, and this guy's got years on me. How do I handle that? But it comes down to doing the right thing at times, and you just got to, dig inside and make that decision, yourself. And I'm sure everybody here has probably run into something like that, especially the individuals who served in combat. I never served in combat. It was just the Cold War. Bill did combat, though, because he stayed in. But I can only imagine some of the moral conflicts all you guys, faced at one time or another during those combat tours.
Larry, what's your advice? And we'll go to Jack, Chuck, and Ann, and Bill. We'll finish up. Larry, you got to unmute yourself.
Jack is ready to give advice.
Jack, what's your advice? And we'll go to Larry.
My advice is this. Love your soldiers. Find out all you can about them, their family, their ambitions, their disappointments. And taking care of that platoon of yours that you will be honored to stand in front of is your main keeping. But also, we have to remember the mission comes first. And sometimes the accomplishment of the mission is going to cost you the life and possible wounding of your soul. But that's your job, your leaders, your West Point. And I would say in summary, love your soldiers, respect them, but remember that accomplishment of the mission comes first.
All right.
Touche, Jack. Touche.
Very good.
Well, back to Miguel. This is Barbara. Back to Miguel. The problem now, I would think, would be with the legality of drugs in most of the states of one kind or another, and how is that going to be handled in the military? You can have it off base, but you can't have it on. And I know that's got to be a problem.
It's still federally against the law, so it can't. It's against USMJ. They can't do drugs off base anywhere.
Well, yeah, but before you drive on base.
No, they can't do drugs. No. If you're in the military, you can't do drugs.
You can't do it at all.
It's USMJ, same thing.
Yeah. Whether you're on base or off base, it still applies.
Yep.
USMJ.
Yeah.
USMJ. So if we ever federalize marijuana, that's where it would change. Larry, what's your advice to James in his class?
Who do you have?
You.
Larry, what's your advice?
For the now you've got to watch out who you're with. I came across a guy at Squadron Officer School. That's where the Air Force sent all of the new captains. And there was a guy there that was very dishonest, and I called him on it one time. And lo and behold, two assignments before I retired, he became my squadron commander. And he was such a bad guy, he ruined every officer's career in that squadron. He took a guy that was the outstanding junior civil engineering officer in SAC and got it where he was denied staying on active duty. So you got to watch out for those guys.
So what can you do? It sounds like if you're assigned to somebody like that, what do you do?
Well, I don't know. That you'd have to see what the flavor is on the base and go into the IG on it. And something I've thought about since that is there ought to be a way for the services to monitor the performance reports of the commanders and that of their junior officers and see what they do, because I'll bet you that guy ruined everybody everywhere he went.
So Chuck, you're next, and then Ann, and then Bill, and we'll finish up for the night.
Just a minute, though. Excuse me, Chuck, just a minute.
Go ahead.
Larry, your point, Larry, it's funny. In my experience, Larry, I've seen that happen 4 or 5 times. Never to me, but to other great officers that fell into a weak chain and somehow a link was really badly broken and they stood up for the right and it cost them and they left. Now, most of them went on to make a very successful life, but I guess I'm talking to young Jim right now because, Jim, these times will face you, whether it's combat or peacetime. But I promise you that no matter where you are, it's the guy in the mirror that you've got to face every day. And the basic credo of duty, honor, country will stand by you, whether you're a civilian or military. So when the challenge comes, be adroit, be graceful, be encouraging, try to guide your boss in the right direction, try to explain why it might be better, but don't sacrifice yourself for it.
Yeah. Let me follow up something I tell my son, Brian. Tell him, you talk a lot. He's a lieutenant commander right now. And I just tell him you can only fall on your saber once. So hold your powder. Until it's really
actually important. What I meant was don't sacrifice your honor.
Well, I believe in don't sacrifice your honor, but realize you can only fall on your saber once.
Yeah. Well, that's true, but it's the only honor you have.
Yeah.
Don't buckle, in other words. Be gracious, try to sidestep, but don't buckle.
Yes, sir.
You know, the military, the Army, you have trust in the chain of command and above your chain of command. Go up through your chain of command if you had to. I went 2 steps above the chain of command when I was doing 60th to a general. And I'm happy I did that. So my commander was good. He was court-martialed, my battalion commander. And it was a tough time. My wife can attest to that. But you will have tough times. I'm sure that Jerry's had tough times, that we've all had tough times. So,
I stole the mic. Pass it on. Pass it on.
So anyway, here we go. Chuck, it's your turn, and then Bill.
I always have stories. And I was thinking about my whole career, and I spent 20 years in, retired, and done essentially the same thing. But I enjoyed it. Everything was an opportunity, a learning experience. I was at Fort Ord in 72 as a company commander during demonstration, and Jane Fonda and rocks thrown at me and all this other stuff, but it was all good experience. My wife had 27 years in the Army. I was an Army nurse, and every time she came in, I always say, it's good experience. Every opportunity is good experience. I got a daughter put into reserves when she was 17. She's now on track to 2 stars, and we tell her it's all good experience. Enjoy it.
That's
Thank
good.
you.
So next we've got Ann.
There we go. What I would say is you'll encounter lots of leaders along your path, and some of them are good and some of them are bad. Learn both kinds of lessons and decide which way you want to go.
Yes, ma'am. Will do.
Very good. And Bill, you get to finish up tonight.
Thank you. James, I'd like to say, you know, one thing you can do as a young officer, if you really want to become a better officer, is listen to the guidance you get from your attendant NCOs. Those guys can help you be the best officer you will ever be. Listen to them. They've got the experience, and you will learn mightily from them, and they will keep you out of a lot of bad stuff if it's likely to happen. The other thing I'd like to say for you is have fun. I don't care what you're doing and where you are, what your assignments are and how tough they are. You'll still be able to have fun and do it. You're a young man. Enjoy your time. You will learn a lot. You'll be grateful for what you've learned, and it will stay with you all your life.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for.
I want to thank everybody.
So much
I want to thank everybody, especially James.
Thank you.
Jerry, thank you. And Miguel and everyone who showed up. Was a blast to listen. Like I said,
Thank you for inviting me.
James, we'll have a good Founders Day next year in face-to-face.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
You know, one thing I'd like to say before we leave, Larry has done such an incredible job through the year, quarter in, quarter out. Those of us that have run West Point societies know that it's relentless and it never ends. Everybody's focused on other things. Larry, thanks for your good work here with our society in Reno.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
You see, it's from the
Amazing, Larry. I've been looking at all the paperwork that Larry has and what he's done. It's incredible. You're pretty good on the computer, Larry, in design.
Here she comes.
It's incredible. Well, thank you again, everybody, and look forward to seeing you. Hey, one last thing. June 6th, 3108 Sweet Clover Street, Reno, Nevada. We're going to have all the cadets and midshipmen. We did it last year. It was a lot of fun. We're going to hand out signs, have a little dessert. It'll be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So everyone's welcome. Also, I'd encourage you to come to the Christmas dinner with the cadets and midshipmen. It's a lot of fun to meet those. And I think it's good to see the support from all academies of our current cadets and midshipmen.
That's the day after dinner.
So thank you. I'm going to end that. So good night. Thank you, Miguel. Thanks, everybody.
Well,
Good night.
Good night.
James, we'll see you in San Antonio soon.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Thanks, sir.
Big Navy.
Looking forward to it.
Miguel, you got to take him out now.
Oh yeah, I know where to take him to eat, get some real Mexican food.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you know what? I love that.
He didn't take Spanish because this place, they only speak Spanish in the restaurant, and the menu's the same way too. So I've got him covered.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, I love it. San Antonio.
San Antonio.
yeah, yes, San Antonio. Okay, bye.
All right.
See you guys.
Enjoyed meeting everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, sir.
Take care.
Good luck, James.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good luck, James. Thank you, James, too. Thank you for taking it all. And Jerry, that's good.
Thank you. Good
Jerry,
luck.
you should
Thank
have
you.
confidence in the core. Look at that. How many years difference is there? See, 52 to, wow, 69
Fun,
years.
Bill.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for taking this on, Bill.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I just need to get better at Zoom.
Zooming.
Zooming.
I hope you'll never have to do it again. So
I am so tired of Zoom. But it works.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to hang up.
Great job. Okay.
Take care.
thank you.
We're the Army and proud of our name. We're the Army and proudly proclaim. First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might. And the Army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won. And the Army goes rolling along. And it's high, high, hey, the Army's on its way.